I was going to ask, like, what drew you to at 24 to go and apply for a job into this winter gig?
Well, my dad was a painter and all my life. I mean, he brought me on jobs painting when I was like 9, 10 years old. Mm-hmm. I hated it, but he wanted me to be a painter. His brothers were painters. His uncles were painters. His grandpa was, everybody's painter. So he wanted me to be a painter too. So all those years of painting, I hated it. So after school, I went to work on Saturday mornings. I worked from 6 in the morning till noon, and all my friends were out having fun. Actually, back then, teenagers are so stupid. They didn't even get out of bed till 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so they wasted their mornings.
Right.
But I never did. I was up at 6. Anyway, so I just eventually got tired of that. I started doing some instead of painting, I started building houses. So I did that for a while. And then eventually just a couple of my friends said they got jobs up there working on the wind turbine stuff. And I go, maybe I'll just try that. That sounds like something fun. So I went up there.
It was just to maybe try it. You saw what was going on and maybe try it.
Figured I'd join the club, I guess.
Now you missed out on being a painter your whole life.
Yeah, thank God. Met a lot of people too. I mean, I met new friends because, we had Tehachapi people, but we also had Mojave and Roseman and Cal City and stuff, and some people from Lancaster, Bakersfield, all come up on this mountain. So there's people from all over the place that started working on these wind turbines and stuff. It was pretty fun, pretty cool.
I think just since we started the podcast, I've heard at least 2, if not 3 similar stories from folks that joined in the last 10 years that saw an ad in a magazine or or their parents said, there's all these wind turbines. You should drive out there and see what's going on. And I think another one was there was like a job fair and there were some wind turbine companies in there. So it's still kind of just people going, hey, what's that about?
Yeah, I don't ever remember seeing any advertisement or anything for it. Everybody noticed there was something weird going on that mountain.
Yeah.
Seeing all these weird things being put up. And so I just decided to check it out. So I don't know.
Did you go to school in Tehachapi then?
Yeah, just high school.
Just high school. All right. What was Tehachapi like then in the 80s?
Tiny. 70s and 80s. I graduated in 77. That just lets you know how old I am.
Yeah.
77. But, Tehachapi was like 4,000 people. Mm-hmm. Our class was barely 100. It was tiny. It was fun. It was the coolest freaking town in the world. But I'm originally from Wisconsin, and my junior high, my junior high in Wisconsin, I went from there to high school here. My junior high was 3 times the size of the Tehachapi High School.
No kidding. Where in Wisconsin?
This was in Sheboygan Falls. It's in between Green Bay and Milwaukee.
Okay.
It's by the Lake Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got here from that giant school to this tiny little school here, I freaked out. Like, what am I in Hicksville here?
Yeah, you were.
but there were so many people in my junior high that you didn't even know half the people. You only knew your group of friends. Well, being this tiny little high school, you end up knowing everybody. And then eventually you know everybody in town. And so it was just a blast back then. I loved it. It was a lot of fun.
Okay. You've seen a lot of changes in Tehachapi.
Big time, yeah.
You were here before a traffic light.
Yeah, because we just had the flashing one downtown, right down the middle of town. That was just a flashing light. It still is, right? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, downtown? The one by the railroad tracks, yeah. Oh, it's not even a light anymore. It's just stop and go.
Sign. Yeah, yeah. Have you seen, I don't know, any businesses that specifically you think came because of the growth of wind turbines and the jobs and the people?
Wind turbines? It's a good question, because I know that the 3 main things in Tehachapi at the time, well, the 2 at first, was either the prison or Monolith, the cement plant.
Monolith first. Yeah.
And the prison. So those are the 2 big employee people. And then once the wind turbines came, that was a third. Mm-hmm. So those are the 3 biggest things that brought people to Tehachapi. But as far as anything building off of that, maybe we got a Kmart or McDonald's eventually. I don't know. I don't remember much.
I heard a story, and I need to check with the owner of Kasagiri's, that it started up with when Mitsubishi turbines came in. It brought in family and people to create this food type.
I wonder why. No, seriously, I don't know why. Mitsubishis are crap turbines. Can I say that?
Yeah.
They were.
No? Okay, well, I'd heard that.
They leaked a lot.
You know the nickname for them then?
We used to call them Shadow Masters, but I don't know what you guys call them.
Mitsulikis.
Oh, okay, I can see that. The reason we call them the Shadow Masters is because if you were in an airplane flying over the site where all the Mitsubishis were, the sun could be coming up from the east, but the shadow was also facing the east, the shadow of the wind turbine, facing the same direction as the sun, where it should be the opposite. Well, what it leaked so much that because of the wind direction always being from the same most of the time, all the oil leaked on the ground and it looked like a shadow.
Oh, my goodness.
So it's just a shadow that came off the thing of the turbine all over the place. So we used to call them Shadow Masters.
That's a better nickname. That's a Shadow Master.
And then eventually, I guess, EPA came along and said, you need to clean this stuff up. I don't know.
And then it came the tower washing crews. I remember that going on.
Yep.
Just power washers on boom trucks all the time.
And doing the blades, because the blades, certain ones. Yeah, the Mitsubishis leaked like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had the bonus turbines. Those were okay turbines.
I forgot about those.
They're a lot like a Vestas turbine in a way.
We still have a few of those?
Yeah, I think there is a bunch of them still up there running.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where did you... I don't know. I am going to ask it, and then I want to go back to the turbines. Where did you get these pictures? I mean...
Okay.
Is there a date on this? Because
no, I wish there was. I wish there was.
Early 70s.
Is there something on there?
Yeah.
Oh.
I see February. Well, I'll have to study that closer later. You also have a signature on it.
Oh,
where'd that come from?
Okay, well, Lloyd, remember we talked about Lloyd?
Yes.
He was for Zond Systems, he was the photographer for them.
Yeah.
Besides helping run a crew and stuff. And so he was taking pictures all the time. And so in the Z building there, the building I'm talking about where we finally all got together, well, we had pictures all throughout that building. Okay. And it was cool because it's to me, I'll find some more that I'll bring to you because I have some more in storage.
I'd love that.
And so we had them hanging around, but when Enron came along and bought Zond out, and I think it was Enron. You can't really quote me on this, but I think they didn't want anything to do with the stuff. They wanted 1.5 wind turbine stuff in the building and none of this old stuff. So they just started throwing things out, taking pictures off the wall and throwing them away.
About 2000?
Yeah, somewhere around there, and I don't remember. Maybe no, it's a little after that, I think.
01?
2000.
I think 01 was the final buyout, if I remember right, from Enron over Zond.
Yeah, maybe it was.
And that was the same year they bought Taka.
Yeah.
Right?
Which, yes. So I just went around and collecting these things out of the trash cans. And I'm keeping this stuff, man.
Out of the trash can.
It's cool stuff, yeah.
I'm so happy you did.
I wanted it.
Holy moly, out of the trash can. Where have they been then for the last 24 or 5 years?
In my storage.
You hung on to them. Why'd you hang on to them?
Because I love it, man, the history. And like I said, the reason I want you to have them, maybe you can hang them up, do whatever.
We will.
Because I don't have any place in my house. Listen, they've been in storage and I never look at them anyway, so I'd rather them be around so other people can go, oh, that's what it used to look like. That is really cool.
Well, I love that. Thank you.
And even in the right back there, you see one of those two-bladed.
Oh, there it is. There's the Carter.
No, it's not a Carter.
Oh.
Let me see. No, that's the SCI or something like that. I can't remember what they're called.
I have to look that one up.
Yeah, there's a couple of them here.
Yep, I remember those now. Carlos Shower and Glass, Statue, California.
Yeah, it shows you they've been around quite a while.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We'll hang them up. We'll make sure more people get to see them.
And you know, let's see, did these Windmatics have the... I think this is after. I can't see.
What are you looking for?
See if the Windmatics also had the little
the
blades
side,
in the back.
The side yaw drive? Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, these are on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Whereas those were on...
Well, those aren't both. They're on both sides, actually.
Well, that's port side, and these are on the starboard side. But yeah. Same concept, isn't it? All right. We're going to make sure more people see him, and we're going to tell them about the guy that jumped in the dumpster to save him.
Yep, I was a dumpster diver.
We're glad you were. We're glad you were. Those are amazing. That's a cool piece of history. Yeah, I can't thank you enough for that. And we've had other people come in for the podcast that haven't been attached to me before. And if they haven't been, I've tried to take them for a little drive, and tell them what I can about the history. And, a couple I can't, but I tell them to go on this drive. It's for people that have been in wind for, a lot of years, like 10, 20 years, they haven't seen anything like Tehachapi.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They've seen all these other states. They've seen big companies, big turbines, big sites, fields in Texas and Iowa and things like that. And they come here and it just, they say it's like driving through a museum. It's a real life museum driving through it. Sometime I'm going to hit you up. I'd love to go for a drive with you and hear you.
Yeah, especially if you take me up on that mountain, I'll freak out because I love it.
Yeah.
I have so many memories up there.
We're going to have to. We're going to have to.
Like when Zond first started, Jim Dielson, he's the one that started Zond. And I remember when we first were doing all this stuff, they would have a year-end party, but it was just all the bigwigs and stuff would have a party somewhere. So we would have, in that building there, the B building, we decided we're going to have our own year-end party.
Of course.
Screw the bigwigs.
Right.
So we would be up there like on a Friday night and just have those 55-gallon drums, fire pits going and playing horseshoes and drinking beer and getting drunk and doing stupid things. And
sure.
So we did that for a while. Then eventually they felt sorry for us guys that did all the work. And then they started having big year-end parties. And I'll tell you what, the Zond and Enron year-end parties were awesome. They were so much fun. We just had a blast.
I hit them after 97 when there was Enron money influence, but I didn't. What were the Zond ones like?
They're pretty much the same. It was fun.
When I went, it was down to the convention center in Bakersfield.
That's how it was.
Kind of fun.
Yep.
It was rent out the convention center. They're driving monster trucks in and magicians and black tie.
Yep. It was fun. I loved it.
I think I had to rent the suit or a tuxedo or something to go to this thing.
Believe it or not, I had some already.
Did you?
So, I don't anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just T-shirt and
I probably had a clip-on tie. Yeah. Those were crazy parties.
Yep, they're fun.
Those were fun. Yeah. A little overboard. That was Enron money, though.
Yeah.
That was Enron money.
And then Enron.
Yeah, we saw what happened with those decisions. Yep.
Ray and I, though, we were pretty good at predicting. We knew.
We
knew that Enron was up to something.
How's that?
Because Ray and I were always like the, although they call us the Doug and Ray show because we were just constantly, we were the comedians of the company. So whatever we did was always fun and funny, no matter what. Everybody just loved us. We were just the odd couple of the family. But when big companies like Enron came along, we were like, I don't trust these guys. We're used to the smaller stuff. Now some big company from Houston's going to come in and tell us what to do, which they try to do. They try to tell us that they know more about what we're doing than we did. And like, this ain't going to last. I'm sorry, and it didn't last very long, but we just kind of saw the end coming eventually. We didn't know how it would end and how bad it would end, but it was a bad thing.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, Altair Energy Services, and their highly trained, expert technical staff, leveraging decades of renewable power management experience into customized solutions for everyone to meet their energy goals and contribute to a better future for all. Altair's team of hardworking, respected experts are providing full-scope, turnkey repairs, planned and unplanned maintenance, system upgrades, fully autonomous technical crews, supplemental staffing, and customized dynamic scheduling to fit your power production needs. Contact Altair at info@altairenergyservices.com and learn more about their wide range of capabilities across multiple power technologies and platforms. That's interesting because if you study some of the Enron history stuff, what's their book? The Smartest Men in the Room. And
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
I mean, they knew
They
how
have a whole documentary on that. Yeah.
That's a few, I think, at this point. I still have my Enron Code of Ethics book.
Oh, do you?
This is like the one thing I saved forever from Enron.
I don't.
Because that was a silly, like, they broke ethical. Anyway. So ironically, I'm keeping that book.
If they handed it to Ray and I, we threw away right away. So I don't even know anything about no.
Yeah. They knew how to control energy and trade energy.
Yeah, that's all they were doing.
That was brilliant.
And they controlled California.
They controlled a huge chunk. Well, ERCOT, Texas.
Yeah, so when we were having high energy things and the cost of electricity and everything went up, is because they were controlling the power situation here.
Yeah.
So
no, but okay. So that's a huge thing going on. The Doug and Ray show notice small things are a complete miss. And, wise people would say, if you're not good at the small things, we know you're not going to be good at the big things. So you see that they're not good at the small things and start making predictions. This isn't going to work.
yeah.
And you're right.
And we try to tell a lot of the bigwigs, a lot of the people there, and most of the people would listen to us and say, yeah, you're right, we better watch for it. But some of them were just kiss asses, and they were just like drooling all over the Enron people when they came along. We're like, oh, man, you guys don't know what you're in for.
Yeah.
So they were sucking up to that stuff, but we like,
No, it's a real common sense approach to thinking and looking forward into the future. Study the small things. You'll find out how good they're going to be at the big things. I love that. I hadn't thought about it that way. But it's a telltale sign.
Well, GE was the same thing. I knew when GE came in, we knew, because they did the same thing that Enron did. They came in and promised us so much, because GE, Enron, mostly GE, they needed their green thumb, right? And so they came in and said, okay, we need green energy, and so we're going to take over this 1.5 turbines and then whatever we had at the time. And everything, and everybody's going to have good jobs. And man, it was about a month into them taking over, they already started getting rid of people, because they were bringing in their own people from Florida and from Schenectady and all their companies where they build airplane engines and whatever they did all over the place.
Sure.
And started bringing them in and shoving us all out. So we saw the end of that coming soon. And then I remember that the Z building there used to be like 300 people in that building, 200, I'll say 200. Eventually, everybody was gone except for me, Ray, and John and Jaime. That there was 4 of us in our shop. We were the last ones in the entire building. We would have been gone a long time ago, along with everybody else. But the problem was that we had our big shop that repaired the 1.5 wind turbines, the main shafts, the bearings, and did so much work. They didn't have anybody else to do it, so they had to keep us around until they can figure out how to replace us. The other ones were just, whoever, they just ran everybody away. So we were in that building for like 6 months, but it was just us.
What year?
This was 2008.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
2008. No, GE was, well, I mean, you just look at GE's history and, go back to Jack Welch, the ability to buy a company and integrate a company and change it over and make it profitable and, higher margin, more volume. It was brilliant for a very long time. And I suppose.
But he was not in charge when this happened.
That's right. That's right. And, you can always say, it's everything works until it doesn't, I suppose. And now we see GE, split into 3, right? So GE stayed with aircraft engines, and then you have healthcare, and then Vernova is their energy business. So 3 different stock tickers now, publicly traded companies. And it will make those, it'll help it survive. It will survive. It'll work. I'm partial GE. I mean, after they bought in, I stayed 21 years, Doug, 21 years.
But you had to move around a lot.
I travel a lot. I move around a lot.
The traveling ones were okay, but anybody local, I mean, eventually they just got rid of everything.
Had to move. Yeah. Had to move. Had to go around. But it wasn't any different than for me, as a 18-year-old kid starting at Zahn and then going to Enron GE. I get to get into the company and see what other jobs were going, what other people were doing things, and say I want to do that. And there was more career opportunity. You get into GE, and hey, I want to. This is a job I want. And I wouldn't have known about any of those other jobs, right? If I wouldn't have started. I wouldn't have known there was a job on the wind farm if I didn't have seen it.
Yeah.
Right. And then when I got there, I was willing to do anything, and it was manufacture these Zon turbines. I wouldn't have known there was construction jobs, commissioning jobs, go travel around and do it. How would I have known, right, back then? Even now, if I hadn't have started and got in there. So for me, it was all the same. Okay, it's GE, and I went, and they brought in all those people. I got to know them. What do you do, and how did you get here? Were kind of my questions. And then, and I asked a lot of people, and I'd tell you, like 9 times out of 10, I walked away from the conversation going, I don't want to do that job. But you end up meeting somebody going, I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
And you get to try something.
They didn't give Ray and I the opportunity. None of us. They you guys were the troublemakers, so we're done with you guys. Because we go, can't we work somewhere within GE? Nope. Get the hell out of here. Okay.
Not as nice. Did they offer to, move, or there's jobs over at this
No, they did
place?
Not. They offered everybody else, but I don't blame them. They just decided that what they did was they brought in a crew from Indiana. We trained them because what they told us is, we want you to train another crew to do what you guys do here in the repair shop. And we will build another repair shop back in Indiana, and then they'll run that crew, and they'll take care of all the wind turbines on the east side of everything, and you guys will do everything on the west side, including Hawaii. Cool. We shipped them guys home. 2 weeks later, we got notices from some bigwigs we don't even know because they're from Schenectady to take our cranes, our tools, everything we have, and ship them to Indiana.
Oh.
And we're like, so that's how it works.
Yeah.
So they took everything we had. We sat around for 2 months, November, December, January, actually 3 months, with no tools, no nothing, just sat there in that building playing video games. And then because they shipped everything away, and then Indiana couldn't keep up with because they were just brand new at what, we had years of working on this ourselves, and they were just barely trained. They could not keep up with the gearbox replacement and all that stuff. So then all of a sudden, I'm sitting in my office one day, and all of a sudden 4 semi-trucks come up with gearboxes, main shafts on them. And like, man, you guys are in the wrong place. You're supposed to be back east, not here. They go, no, we were told to come here. Next thing you know, I get a phone call, and they tell us, sorry, but we had to send these gearboxes to you guys to separate and replace bearings and all that stuff on because the crew back here can't do it. And I go, okay, great. You want us to just unload them here in the shop, or what do you want us to do with them? Yeah, just unload them, and then we'll send the work orders in, your replacement. And then I go, you do realize that we no longer have cranes. We no longer have tools. We have nothing. We can't do this for you. It just showed that there was no communication between people at the time. So maybe later on with you and GE things went smoother, but at the time, this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And so we had to tell the trucks, sorry, you're going to have to spend the night, and they're going to have to get some new shipping orders for you guys to head back east, even though they just came from back east. So
did you guys go out there then
No. Nope. We just told them, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Because they were laying us off, so February 1st was our last day.
They didn't have a lot of motivation to help out.
No, you guys did this to us. We're going to do it to you.
Yeah.
Kind of assholes we were, but hey.
Son of a gun.
I didn't care.
Well, I mean, I feel bad. I'm sorry I went down that way.
But I do get a pension from GE, so I can't bitch too much.
Badass. Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
GE pension's pretty good.
Yeah.
Part of me is sad that we lost some of this historical knowledge, right? Of how to work on those gear,
Well, actually, that's a good point, because the reason they really didn't want us to keep going, because we're older people, of course. The best thing to do is bring in young guys, train them in their way that they want things done, and they'll go get it done. We're old school. my brain was not set up to work the way they wanted us to work. So, we can't teach an old dog new trick. You hear that all the time. Well, that's kind of what their thinking was. So they're thinking like, listen, you guys have been around way too long. The way you do things is not the way we are, and we know we can never convert you. So we're just going to be kind and part ways. And we're like, okay.
I get it. I mean, it's it's a business strategy for integration and growth.
Yep.
It's a bit textbook there, and sorry that happened, but I also think that it's not that black and white anymore. The technology advancements happen so fast that if we aren't retaining the wisdom from folks that have been around a long time, we're going to make more mistakes.
Well, but you also got to remember that GE was very new at this industry at the time, so they didn't know much either. So I'm sure now obviously it's a totally different thing, but
yeah. There's a piece of GE history that's rattling in my brain at the moment, but Thomas Edison's original company, I think, was Edison Electric. And then he merged with a company in Europe. Boy, somebody's going to fact check me on this. And I'm trying to think about the year. But that merger, the company in Europe was a wind turbine company. And the merger was then named General Electric.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, holy smokes. Better fact check this one. But I think that's correct. We should find the name of the company or recall the podcast note or something. But I'm pretty sure the name General Electric was born from Thomas Edison, another company that was a wind turbine company in Europe. All right. That came out of the Wayback Machine in my brain for a minute. But so, maybe GE was going a little bit back to roots, but yeah, they're huge in the aircraft engine. They're huge in gas turbines.
They were back then when they first came along.
Washing
but just like
machines and light bulbs.
Like you talk about Enron, when they bought the Taka turbine, it was a German turbine, the 1.5, and they needed their green label too. So all they did was they took the name and pasted it on the outside of this turbine, and then GE did the same thing. They took the Enron label off and put the GE sticker on it. The problem with the 1.5, though, so going all the way back to the V15 turbine, the main shaft on that turbine had 2 pillow blocks. So, and all the GE ones, they have the 1 pillow block, and that's it, right up by the hub. You got a pillow block. But the Vestas turbines, the reason the gearboxes and everything lasted so long back then is because, give me your pen, I'll show you something.
The main shaft separated from the gearbox through 2 bearings and pillow blocks.
Yeah. Here's your main shaft, and here's your blades, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, the pillow block is right here. Mm-hmm. So when the wind blows and does this to the thing, that's what happens. Now, if you have 2 pillow blocks, then it can't, because it just barely moves this end that's attached to the gearbox. So there's not much movement going on, so there's not much stress on the gearbox, where on the other one, that gearbox has to absorb all that movement. And that's when all these gearboxes failed. And so they went through all kinds of different gearbox companies trying to fix this and everything. And we kept telling them, until you put 2 pillow blocks on there, you're going to have this problem. And they never did. So it was good for me, because we had to replace that bearing all the time on that main shaft and work on other parts of it. So like, yeah, you guys keep it going. We had to replace the generator bearings, because the electricity would flow through the bearing and arc it and through the bearings out. So part of my job as having a big shop is I would try to find manufacturers of other things to replace stuff that we had, because we couldn't get them all the time. Guy came along one day and I was telling him about the generator bearings. And he goes, well, just do ceramics. And I go, okay.
Electricity doesn't.
Right, it won't flow through them.
Right.
And because at the time we had shunts, we had these brushes that would try to ground it to keep it from going through the bearing, but there's no way to stop it. It's going to go through those bearings. So they end up pitting and they tear apart, and the generator is now, the stator is hitting the rotor and grinding out and it's destroying everything, right? So I try to talk the bigwigs at the time into replacing all the bearings. That every time a generator comes in, let's put ceramics in, even though they're like triple the price of a normal one. They wouldn't do it. Kept doing it. So eventually, the 1.5, I don't know if it's GE or they sold it out to somebody else or somebody else took over. Eventually, somebody came in and started putting the ceramics in, which eliminated their problem. Now the generators run forever instead of
There are quite a few ceramic options out there, and I don't know why they're not all that way. We get some mechanical engineer here to answer it, but yeah, I don't know why they all didn't go that way. It's got to be some loading answer or something. I don't know.
There might be, but they're pretty tough bearings. Maybe there is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But you're right.
But we had so many pitting problems. I mean, just nonstop pitting problems and destroying those things. So we were constantly replacing generator bearings all the time.
Controlling the flow of electricity on a wind turbine is still a problem. Like this grounding is still an issue. Grounding is still getting upgraded in all of the points of the bearings. It's an evolution, right? You get bigger, you get fatter, you get wider, faster. Grounding is still advancing in terms of the design and where it's controlled all the time still. And I don't know, you got to have new turbines, right? You got to make more power. You got to, the race for electricity is nonstop.
Bigger and bigger and bigger all the time.
The human beings on this planet want more and more electricity. The AI needs to be fed.
That's going to be a problem, feeding that AI stuff. That's going to take a lot of power.
It's coming up in a few conversations. Yeah, no, it's a heck of a demand. We want to drive on electricity now, right? We want everything on electricity.
It ain't going to happen in California.
Man, well, it's just more and more cars.
Yeah, we can't even keep the grid going now.
No. Yeah, I know it's a problem. I don't know if enough houses get solar panels or something, it helps, but yeah, it's a heck of a deal. Let's thank our friends over at Renew Safety, your proactive partner in safety solutions. With comprehensive safety consulting, ensuring compliance with all safety regulations and standards. Expert staffing solutions, providing trained safety professionals tailored to your project's needs. Commitment to sustainability, promoting a safe and sustainable working environment. Contact Renew Safety at info@renewsafety.com and speak to one of their industry experts about their proven track record for safety management on numerous projects. Or perhaps you're looking for construction safety staffing, contractor monitoring, incident investigation, or program development and training. Check out Renew Safety at renewsafety.com. So that's it. You have all this extra experience and knowledge that needed to be transferred over. And that's kind of what makes me sad sometimes, that the knowledge transfer, which, knowledge transfer. And I think that I remember a psychology class where there was one philosopher that said that's the purpose of life, to transfer knowledge to the next generation, right? So if you're failing in that area, I don't know if that's the purpose, but I remember reading one guy thought that, then something's amiss.
Yeah.
Something's missing. Yeah. You got to transfer the knowledge.
And Ray and I, when we opened the shop up, especially with the Vestas turbines, there was no manual of how to repair anything or everything because the Danes owned all that back in Denmark. And it was hard. If we needed new parts, we had to get them from them. And it would take weeks because everything had to be shipped by container. It has to go through customs and all that stuff. So weeks, months before the stuff gets here. So then since I was kind of my own boss at the time, I always was, I figured I need to find manufacturers around here that can replace all these parts with. So I ended up finding new hydraulic systems, new yaw gears, slew ring manufacturers. We'd start having people locally start building the slew rings, everything on it. And eventually I just learned so much from having to repair all this stuff myself. Mm-hmm. Us did it. So when we constantly saw what was going wrong with wind turbines, because when you have to repair all these parts, you see the problems.
Sure.
And so I was invited to meetings all the time. I didn't have the only degree I had was my temperature, I didn't have a plaque on the wall, but I had a plaque on my teeth. But I was still invited to all these bigwig engineering meetings all the time. They needed me to come in because even though they drew it on the paper, the engineers figured out, they didn't have the hands-on out in the field application, right? So they knew I did, so I was always invited to all these meetings. And sometimes I would give them information, this is what you need to do here, this is what you need, and someone would listen, But the ones that were like, oh yeah, little boy out in the field, you don't tell me what to do type attitude. Sure. They have that,
Sure, once in a while.
So a lot of them would like turn me down, like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do this. Nah, screw you, little dude. But others were like, no, you need to listen to them. So that's the kind of knowledge you're kind of talking about. Knowledge of actually working and hands-on is very important to be able to work with the engineers and stuff so they can figure out the field side and their side, put the two together, and it cures a lot of problems.
Yes.
But to get them to do that is a different story.
There have been, there's a lot of different terms, right? For like, go seek and find, go look and see, you can find these different terms. My favorite was, what's reality? What is reality? How does it work in reality?
Yeah.
And getting that feedback in. And I was always the happiest when I worked with engineers that went out spent a lot of time in the field, because those are the ones that understood, and all different ages and walks of life, but they would go out and go, hey, I want to work with you for the week, and they were like, you had to watch out so they didn't get hurt, right? But
well, okay.
But having them being able to witness it, they went home with all these ideas. Hey, here's 4 problems. And I don't know the answer, but I found 4 problems. Let's go solve them, right? Yep. And it was so helpful, so helpful.
I loved it because we did have some engineers that came up to our shop, and they wanted to know, they wanted to see hands-on how we repaired things, how we did stuff, so they can figure out a way to apply what we did to whatever they're doing. And we had this one engineer. I don't know if you know what a megger is. It's where you're checking the windings.
Give me a break.
Yeah, I guess so. So we had a generator in there, and he's wanting to meg the windings and figure out how we know which set of windings, blah, blah, blah. He did know, but he wanted to actually see it happen. He only knew it from whatever.
Yeah.
So he was up there, and we told him, okay, once we do this, we got to now ground it out, get all the juice out and everything. But he was impatient. He was like, oh, this is cool, this is cool, it's cool. So we had just done it, and he went to touch something. What about this? And bam, and it shocked him. And we laughed so hard. So here this respected big-time engineer had been coming back to our shop for, a couple of weeks, to talk with us and stuff. And his name was now Sparky.
Yes, of course.
It's pretty simple, but we had to do it. So every time he walked through the door, Sparky, yeah, what's going on, Sparkster? Come on, you want some more sparking action? He gets so mad at us and yell at us. Yeah, but we also had fun with so many of the engineers and people. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I liked working when they wanted to work with us. So
yes, and there are so many good ones out there, dedicated, wanting to learn, and then wanting to find problems.
Yeah.
The ones that wanted to find problems are my favorite, right? Because then they were going to go home and they were going to find the solution that nobody else thought of yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got some funny engineer stories. I'll tell one too. I don't remember what state, but man, it was middle of winter in the Midwest somewhere. And this dude's in tennis shoes, blue jeans, and like a San Diego jacket, right? And he's working on something, and it was like a grounding thing. And I said, how does this extra device work? And he says, what was the highest math class you took? And I went, I know how to pay for a jacket and coveralls.
There you go. Gee, I wonder where you got that attitude from.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I could use another beer. You? And Doug, if we want to take a break, we can take a break too.
I don't need no stinking break.
All right.
Unless you need one.
Get me? I think...
I kind of like the way you have our own...
oh, man. Jake, right?
Yeah, check this dude out.
I know.
All right.
You better get another beer.
We got a bartender.
Oh, yeah.
And remember, I always tip... I do.
Okay.
I always tip your barmaids and bartenders.
If Doug does, I do.
You'll get a tip at the end of the night.
Yeah, be some piece of knowledge you don't want. But
so let me tell you another story about some engineers and stuff.
Okay.
Which one are you guys drinking? The Four Roses?
Yes.
So one day we were having which Ray and I didn't know, but they were having some engineers and stuff from GE come up to see the shop. They wanted to see what was going on.
Sure.
So, because they heard about that, there's these guys,
Thanks,
thank you,
Jake.
buddy, these guys that was repairing stuff, and they can get some answers from us on the questions they had and everything.
Yeah.
So we're up there, and this just kind of blew me away that they believed the story that I told them. They come into the shop, and there was men and women, a whole, like maybe 6, 7 of them, and then two of the bigwigs from guys that Zahn, Vestas, whatever.
Oh.
I mean,
You're saying you're thinking GE, right?
well, actually, old timers from Zahn and Enron. They went through the whole thing, so
Okay.
they're bringing GE engineers in to see this stuff. So they brought them in, and they were showing them the gearboxes, right? So we had two gearboxes in there that we were taking the main shafts out of and replacing and stuff. And a couple of them were like looking at the gearboxes, had no idea what they were, and so they said, "What are these things here you're working on? These big giant green things? What is it? I go, "Well, I can tell you what. See, there's a lid on the back, and there's a square lid with a bunch of bolts on it that you can to get inside of the gearbox." I go, "What it is you take that lid off. See, not only do we work on wind turbines, but we also repair stuff for other companies that do other things. So if you take that lid off, you fill this thing up with barley." And then we put a motor on the other end of it, and it grinds the barley so that we can make barley and hops and stuff to make beer. And he goes, "You guys actually work for a beer manufacturing place?" "Yes, indeed." And so we're fixing their gear. Ta-da.
Respect.
They are like freaking out, thought it was the coolest thing. And I finally had it. And then one of the bigwigs that knew me very well was in the background going, "Shut up. Shut up."
I mean, you want to try some? We got some beer right here.
Yeah.
I'll pour you a glass.
So I finally had to tell them. And fortunately, everybody had a pretty good attitude about it. They all laughed like, "I'm sorry, dudes. These are the gearboxes for the wind turbines." It's like, "Oh, man, we like the other story better."
That's right.
So
That's right. And you were kind of historically spot on, because some of the early wind turbines were built to grind grain.
Yeah.
Right? It was move water, then
Yep.
it was grind grain, and then,
Yep. So, hey, I wasn't far behind.
No, I like it.
Another story, kind of, it's different, but I'll tell you a story about the president of Zond at the time. I won't mention his name. Everybody knows him.
Be nice.
But one time he came into our shop, and he had his bike. He used to ride his bike at lunchtime for exercise and stuff, right? So he comes into the shop, and he brings his bike in, and he goes, "Hey, my seat is not adjusted right. Can you guys adjust the seat for me?" And I look at Ray, and Ray looks at me. And for the audience that's maybe listening, you got to realize that Ray and I were two partners that were just the jokesters, okay?
I can't believe you still have a job.
So I know.
Yeah.
So this is the...
You were lucky you made it to 08.
This is the president of Zahn Systems Incorporated. So I looked at Ray, Ray looked at me, and we pretended like we were talking, whispering. Then we'd look back at him like, "All right, fine, we can fix it. But it's going to cost you." "Oh, yeah? What's it going to cost us?" "It cost me." And I go, "Well, it's going to cost you a 12-pack of beer." "Sold. You got it." Okay. So when do you need this?
Tell your friends.
He goes, so I go, "So when do you want us to fix it?" I mean, just because we have a toolbox, you think we can fix it, but okay, we'll do that for you. That's exactly what I said to him.
Oh my goodness.
Just because I have a toolbox.
Yeah.
And so he goes, "I just need it at lunchtime, so just do me a favor, get it done, and you'll have your beer." I go, "Okay, cool." And of course, we cannot have beer at the company, and there's no way to bring beer on.
Now you can.
Oh, really?
Well, the president says.
Well, okay.
Well, in this story,
So-
the president's bringing you beer. It's
So here's what happens.
kind of a green light.
Right. So next thing you know, he comes in at lunchtime. The seat is adjusted. We adjusted his chain and everything. Everything was perfect. He's like, "Oh man, thank you guys so much. This is awesome." Takes off on his bike. And then we just joked and laughed. We didn't think anything about it. Also, a little while later, his secretary comes in, and she has this paper bag, and she's like, "Hey." I go, "What?" She goes, "You guys need to take this." And we're like, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Just come here and get this." And we looked over. It was a 12-pack of MGD in a paper sack. She goes, "You need to hide this because we're not supposed to have beer on the property at all. Hide it somewhere." I go, "He actually freaking paid us in
That's
beer."
wonderful. Yes.
So we went and took it and hid it and everything.
Yeah.
But that's just how we can affect bigwigs in the company through joking and laughing and having fun. Because Ray and I, actually, all we ever want to do is just have fun while we're working. We love to teach the new kids and everything stuff, even though we picked on like you. We eventually would try to train you and teach you how to do the work properly and stuff, and not be cheating, not being the plug and play people or whatever you call them.
Yeah. Plug and play. Sure.
Yes.
Part swappers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So although we had a lot of fun, we always did that. Even the head of HR would come walking by our little cage there. You know, that cage was
Who
there
was
to
it?
protect. You really want to know? Should I say the
Yes.
name? Daryl Orban.
Oh, okay. There was another lady I kept trying to
Well, there was there was some others,
Yeah.
but he was kind of like the head at the time, and he'd be walking by our cage, and we'd be hiding behind someone and go, Daryl, come out and play. We do stuff like that.
The head of HR.
Yes, head of
Again,
HR.
It's amazing you didn't get fired in the 90s.
Well, you got to realize, so he'd walk by our fence, our cage to protect the outside people from us. He'd just walk by and go like this and walk on by. The head of HR flipping us off as he walked away.
I think you had it coming. That's fair play.
It was.
That's fair play.
But it's just that we all knew that we were always joking, always laughing, and having fun. Of course, a head of HR shouldn't do something like that, but look who he was contending with.
Of
He
course
had
a
to
human would.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we just always had fun. You know, year-end parties, like I said, they were fun because we were always mentioned as the comedy team of the group and stuff. So one thing about working at Zahn and Ranji, it was the people. There was especially a core group of people that have been around for a long time. So especially with Zahn, it was like a family. Zahn was a family group of people. Sure, there was people that came and went outside and all this stuff, but usually the core was always there. So that's why the year-end parties were fun, because it's like a family get together and just having a good time.
This episode brought to you by RST Cranes. With over 30 years of experience, RST Cranes brings the industry expertise to every project. From wind turbines to solar inverters, mining operations to industrial construction, RST Cranes is your heavy lift specialist, located in Tehachapi, California, and serving the surrounding areas. Contact RST Cranes for your next project at www.rstcranes.com.
Back in these days right there in that picture, there's be times in the wintertime it was so cold, and the wind, you know how the wind is up on that mountain, just 70, 80 miles an hour, and we're out there still working in it. And this is the days before Carhartts.
Oh, yeah.
We would have 3-4 shirts,
Layers.
and a couple of pairs of pants and stuff, and scarves and everything. So when we got to work in the morning, we had to say each other's names because we had no idea who we were talking to. You couldn't tell. So,
I can't move my arms. Yeah.
so since I was a boss, I was always there, early before everybody else, because we had these
As
air
every good
compressors.
manager should be.
We had these giant air compressors, a V6 engine, and it was a 4-cylinder engine, but the other 2 cylinders were the compressor side of it. So it was a pretty cool setup, because we were assembling all the lattice towers and stuff, so we had to have all this stuff. So I remember we're out there working our ass off. All of a sudden, a truck comes backing down towards us, and we're like, well, who the heck is this in the truck? These girls get out, come around the back, they open up the camper shell and put the tailgate down, pull out this big giant pot of soup and stew and bread. Like, come here, guys. And they'd feed us a bunch of food and stuff. And that was Mrs. Dielson and Lloyd's wife, Barbie, and some others that would come along and do that and bring us soup in the middle of this freezing ass winter day.
Love this.
And that was the fun part of Zahn, because it just made us all a big family at the time. So it was so cool.
Again, Doug, the small things.
Yes.
It's the small
Important
things
as hell.
that matter. If you're good at the small things, you'll be good at the Yeah. You've told 2 small things stories that came true.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot more. But,
Of course.
But yeah, that's especially because the wind industry was so young at that time. I mean, it had been going on in Denmark and Germany and overseas for a long, long time. I mean, you know that. But this was very new in the United States. So it was fun to be able to be kind of the pioneers, along with all the other guys from Zahn and everything. A lot of the people I mentioned, Shogun, Dennis Smith, and a bunch of others, that we actually helped to bring this industry into a big, huge thing from this small little community in Tehachapi on this tiny little mountain, So it was just so much fun. It was the coolest thing in the world to know that we were actually part of something that we did not know how big it would get, but it did get big.
Huge.
So yeah.
I want to just comment one more time on those small things about, the families bringing, when you're cold, a warm meal. It goes so far. It's such a wonderful touch. But, you also said wind turbines have been, in Europe and all that for a long time, but not utility scale power.
Right.
Right. This is connected to the grid.
Yeah.
This is the first time connected to the utility in the United States of America.
Because a lot of those back.
Right, this is utility connection.
Yeah,
Very unique.
Vestas was doing singular turbines at the time.
Yeah,
they would put it up
houses.
for a manufacturer, like some small little company that needed one turbine.
Yes.
Or housing and stuff like. Yeah, it was never
Commercial.
like this.
I would
ever.
call that residential and then commercial.
Right.
This is utility.
So when Vestas got an order for 300 and something wind turbines from us, that's when
Big deal.
That was huge to them. I mean, that made Vestas from a tiny little nobody company into a big, huge company.
It'd be great to find somebody around that was at Vestas in the early 80s and talk to them.
Yeah, there's nobody here
in
anymore.
Denmark. Like,
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know if there is or not.
that would be a heck of a thing. Is there someone worked at Vestas in Denmark in the early 80s? We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Love to hear from you.
There was-
That would be
There was
wild.
one of the huge bigwigs that when we started doing the 550 and stuff, he came over to try to help out and do a bunch of stuff. I can't remember his name anymore, but he was an awesome dude. But he was one of the bigwigs at the time for Vestas. But I think he ended up with Jim Dielson, and they went over and started Clipper Wind. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so
Yes, of
didn't last
course.
very long, but yeah.
Yeah.
But because once they sold Zahn, they got bored and they go, well, we need to keep going.
Let's do it again, guys.
Yeah, so-
Put the band back together again.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it. I'm on a mission from God.
Yeah.
All right. What about Taka? Did you know Taka before Enron?
No. Taka, all I know is that we brought these turbines over. I'm sorry to tell you, but to me, the 1.5 has always been a junk turbine.
Man.
I know, but
Kinda
that's just my
kinda hurting
opinion.
me a little
It's
bit.
just my opinion because Taka, they brought that turbine over here and it was just junk to begin with, but I think it was cheap. So that's why,
Man.
Zahn, I guess, was it Zahn or Enron? Enron bought it?
Enron.
So Enron bought it. And like I said, then they just slapped their name on that turbine. But man, so we were repairing V15s, V17s, V27s, V90s, all these Vestas turbines and stuff, and then plus all the 550s and 750 Zahn turbines. We were working on all this stuff, and then all of a sudden this 1.5 comes along, and it just had problem after problem after problem. Like everything was constantly failing. I was thinking like, wow, this is really going to keep us busy. I hope they can fix this stuff because I don't want to always work on it. But anyway, so I mean, eventually they were able to make the 1.5 a pretty good wind turbine. But at first, I didn't think much of it. It really wasn't nothing to me. Like, I don't know about
All
you
right.
guys.
Hurt me a little bit because I fell in love with that one. And then during the
The
bankruptcy,
Taka or the 1.5 itself?
yeah,
I mean, was it the actual Taka turbine or was this after once it became Enron and we started doing different?
oh yeah, when Enron purchased it.
Okay.
Right.
Because we started making changes to it. So,
Well, still it was the 1.5.
yeah.
And during the bankruptcy, I mean, I was in that manufacturing plant, and I think I was the last. I didn't lose my job, so it was me and a 1.5 in that building, and like a sourcing guy, and a few other people for 6 months. I tore it apart and put it back together.
Oh, really?
That 1.5. I can still to this day read.
When was that? What year was that?
Give me a second. That was fourth quarter. Just call it fourth quarter 01. GE purchased it out of the bankruptcy asset May 02. And it was probably like the end of May. So it's probably like the first half of 02. And I can still to this day read all of the schematics in German and all of the component names in German as well as I know English. It was
Because you
just-
had to.
I friggin' had to.
Yeah.
Yes. And all of the, I mean, anyway, too much in German.
So I don't.
But, all right. Not
I was
that.
so busy that I don't remember you guys going through that. I don't remember you being the only one, don't I?
I don't know.
'Cause we were busy all the time.
We should have ran into each other in that time. There was like, 5 of us.
Maybe
Well,
we
it
did.
was
But
clearly more than that. But compared to the hundreds that can work there and did work there, it was very ghost town
yeah.
kind of feeling. But now I was thinking like older than that, right? I haven't seen him in a while, but one of my neighbors in Bear Valley is Wilhelm Taka.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you know him?
No. But to know somebody with that name, it's like
His father designed the wind turbine. His
Oh, really?
grandfather owned the in Salzburg in Germany, owned the maybe it was in Rhine, Salzburg, or the neighboring little towns. So before it was a wind turbine, it was a gearbox manufacturer that Wilhelm's grandfather owned. The father becomes in charge and then goes to design, take the gearbox and make it a wind turbine. And Wilhelm came over here, and I think in 82, and started putting up wind turbines.
wow. I wonder what he was.
And I can't believe that you never connected. And so 82, 84, maybe it was 84, but it was really close.
You got to realize eventually Oak Creek came along, Oak Creek Energy, and they were putting up different turbines. But that was, I mean, it was Zahn was the first one. Oak Creek sometimes wants to claim that they were number one, but no, it was Zahn before any of them.
It was on before them, so maybe 84 then.
Yeah.
Because I'm struggling with those years right now.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him in a little while, but I'm gonna keep checking in. The next time he spends time going home to Germany a little bit too, and next time he's in town, I've got to introduce you, and we got to talk history, the three of us.
And here's I don't want you to think too bad of what I'm saying. It's just that it was a brand new turbine for Taka. Taka was just getting into trying to do this
Brand
stuff.
new big one.
Yes.
For a big one.
So that's why I didn't care for it, because they had no time to work the kinks out of this thing.
Yeah.
They were just suddenly bringing this Taka turbine. I used to have a Taka coffee mug. I had two of them, actually. And then what's funny is Enron took that exact coffee mug. It was kind of like outdoorsy wind turbine on it, and it said Taka.
Yeah.
Enron took it and just took Taka off and put Enron on. Not only did Enron just slap their label on the side of the Taka
crooked
turbine,
E.
but the crooked E, they put that crooked E on the side of the wind turbine, but they also put the crooked E on the side of that coffee cup.
Oh,
What?
man.
Don't screw with my Taka coffee cup. I was proud of that thing.
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked it because finally it's something new other than just Zahn. I mean, other than Vestas and Mitsubishi and, you know, all those turbines and stuff. And then of course Palinko, and which are these tube towers. Palinko,
Tube tower.
that's all German. And the Windmatics, they eventually all went away. You know, they didn't last long, but Zahn did. I mean, I keep confusing Zahn and Vestas because to me they were always together.
Oh, I see. Yeah. No, Vestas still going strong, right?
Yeah, so
Vestas, GE, they're the two main players
Yes.
in the world.
And I'm very happy for that, because to me, Vestas, Vestas used to give these cool blue, nice jackets that said in Vestas and gold on them and everything and stuff. It's so cool. And they'd put our names on it, you know, like Vestas was really cool to us back then because we were providing
Well, you were the big buyer.
Yes.
You were their number one customer.
Yes.
Zahn was their number one customer in the 80s.
And
clearly.
they would send their representatives over to us, and of course I just partied with them and have fun with them, joked with them all the time.
As you should.
So I got me my coats and everything. That,
Yes.
You know, and then I had Vestas jackets and Vestas hats. It was cool. Everything was Vestas back then. So It was fun to meet all those guys from Denmark coming over and stuff.
I love this. All right, this might be, I don't mean to poke at you, but that to make you a little bit biased against GE? Against Taka, against GE, against...
Well, not GE or Enron, because like I said, all they did was slap their sticker on somebody else's product. Eventually, I guess GE, or I don't know if you guys have ever, or they have ever built anything. Well, obviously, they went beyond the 1.5 to...
Yeah.
So is it actually GE's design, or did somebody else design these bigger turbines?
100%. Yeah. So, right, GE bought the asset, which owned Taka and Zond or Enron. And then, so that was the 1.5. They got the sales going again, started pumping out the machine. And then little by little, GE would take over the design and say, okay, we're going to redo this controller and GE's software and hardware and firmware. And then, bit by bit, integrate it. And then, okay, gearbox, okay, generator. So yes, today it's been 100% GE for quite a long time.
So that's...
we're talking about 22 years ago. So yes, it's been GE for a long time.
Right.
Yeah. 22 years. Holy shit.
So I wasn't biased against Taka because I was also, like I said, I was used to
all these other brands.
Carters and Starmasters and SCI and Plinkos, and so I was used to tons of different wind turbines.
Yeah.
So I wasn't, prejudiced against Taka. I just I don't know. We put a bunch up down in the the other side of the hill over there on the downside.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, one of them's already coming in for repair. Like, wait a minute, you just barely put the damn thing up there. Like, okay, so
Start wondering.
yeah, so I was wondering. But
Yeah, no, I asked because I'm a little biased towards GE, right? I mean, 21 years of my
Yeah.
life. I love this company, wonderful opportunity. So I get a little bias, and, the last year and a half now away from GE, and I've been introduced to Siemens Gamesa turbines, Vestas turbines, and get to have conversations with the guys working on them. And I know what they're doing because of, just the job I have now. From an office standpoint, don't get me wrong, I'm not in the turbine working, but then get to talk to the guys, and they'll send me pictures and maybe little videos, and I'm just amazed on the technology difference, and I didn't know like things where Vestas were doing, and yeah,
I would
So,
like to know.
I've had to
someday.
force myself to go, don't be so biased, right? Like learn, and no, they're all good designs.
So I only did 28 years, but fortunately, the beginning of those years was the beginning of everything. So that's what's fun. But I only did 28 years, but it was Zahn, Enron, and GE. So the GE side I did not mind at all, even though I knew they wouldn't keep us around very long. Enron was the one I knew was going to somehow screw us over. But Zahn is just my family. So
Yeah.
a bunch of us Zahn people, once in a while we talk, and I don't know why we don't ever do it, but we want to get almost like a family reunion, find out all the old from the 80s and 90s Zahn people, and try to get us all together for one big family party, And we keep talking about it, but for some reason it just never goes through. But
If you ever get it, would you invite me?
oh yeah, because if you started with Zahn, then you're part of that family. So yeah.
Or let us know. We'll coordinate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you-
Jacob says we'll host it.
He can videotape and you guys provide the alcohol, and we
We'd like to take this time to thank another one of our wonderful sponsors, Podge Engineering. Podge Engineering, making wind and solar all we know it can be. Are your renewable energy assets underperforming or not performing at all? Did you expect many years of longevity and they're failing on you now? Podge LLC offers many customized, engineered products and solutions to get these assets back on track. Podge Engineering also performs root cause analysis, engineering services, procurement, and construction. Visit podge.org. That's PADGE.org. Remember Podge, making wind and solar all we know it can be. Well, I mean, I got to ask because I don't have those connections to those people, right? I was too young.
Yeah, I guess you were, like I said, you were just a piddling puppy at the time. So.
Up until about a few months ago, I was never on the second floor of that Z building.
Really?
Yes. I was a worker on the floor. I kept my head down. I went to work. I didn't get out of my lane. I wanted to do a good job and promote and build my career. I didn't get out of my lane, Doug. I never went up there.
Wow, I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Mm-hmm. I've had 2 tours now of the building and been up top and
So once you went up top, that was all new to you. Like
my point is, if you didn't
so this is what it looks like up here.
staring down, staring down on them. My point is, if you weren't on the shop floor, like I didn't know him.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know him.
You know what's weird is with Ray and I, with our shop, we were a multi-purpose team. We repaired parts, we quality controlled out in the field, but we were also building maintenance. We would maintain that building.
Is that right?
When the sewer plugged up, Ray and I are out there, shoving poles down in the septic to try to get it unplugged. All the shit and tampons and everything come flying out of there.
Here's the
and
Doug
believe
and
me,
Ray
there was
show.
a lot of tampons and shit.
This is the Doug and Ray
Yeah,
show.
we're out there just plunging away and shit flying all over the place. And then we go inside, we have shit all over us and tell the girls, yeah, you can use the toilets now. Everything's fine. So
I wonder you had a bad attitude coming.
it was all fun. Yes, but we actually did maintain the turbines. And so, I mean, the turbines, the building itself. So we'd go upstairs and we get to talk to all the girls, the secretaries, everybody that does all the monies and does all that stuff. And that was all part of having fun. We were just, like I said, continually a family. I remember us having to go into one of the stalls in the women's bathroom, and one of the stalls was plugged up. So I'm in there unplugging the stall off, and I hear a door on this side close and then a door on this side close, and all of a sudden I hear peeing like, you do know I put a sign out there, I'm in here working. They go, we don't care. We got to pee.
Priorities.
Like, okay, do what you got to do, but I'm plunging this one out. So Ray and I weren't above ourselves. I mean, although we kind of acted like we were somebody, but we still had to shovel shit, you might say. You know,
You really were the janitors.
Yes.
Yeah, or the facility. Yeah,
And we loved every minute because it's just more of that small stuff you're talking about, because we get to mingle and talk to the people to keep everybody together and have fun. So it's just.
I think that is the definition of culture.
Yeah.
Getting to know each other, right? Mingling. You build that family unit, that friend unit, that work environment, the professional friends. That's culture. You really had it.
And you know what else I did? One of the things I was going to do before I worked on wind turbines, I was going to work for Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Okay.
I was a cartoonist. I love drawing cartoons and stuff. So
No kidding.
I went to apply. Somebody heard about me, some dude from Hanna-Barbera, and he got in contact with me. So I went down and I was like, I want to draw Hanna-Barbera cartoons, because every Saturday everybody watches that stuff, right? So I go down there and so the guy wanted me to draw a bunch of stuff. So I drew things and stuff. Yeah, you're good enough. You can work for us and stuff. And then he gave me the Lone Ranger, and I can't remember some other drawings. And he goes, "Can you draw this stuff?" I whipped it all out and everything. So they said, "We're going to bring you in for a test thing and show you how we do this stuff." So they brought me into this big room with a big long table, a whole bunch of people, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And what you do is they hand you a cell. They call them cells. And on the cell is a drawing of somebody going like this, right? So you put a piece of paper over the top of it and you trace out everything to do. But this movement now, you just add a little adjustment to it.
Yeah.
And that's all you're doing. You're just adding to this line of stuff. You're not really doing cartooning. You're just changing the motion so that you can see it on TV. Like,
Right.
No. I go, no, I want to draw the actual entire cartoon. I want to do everything. Well, no, you can't do that. So that went my days of Hanna-Barbera. I told him, no, I don't want to do that.
See, you almost missed your opportunity in the wind turbine.
Yeah. So, which I actually, believe it or not, I'm glad that I went to the wind turbine instead of.
I'm sure you are.
But I still did draw cartoons of the company all the time. I was always making fun of people. Dave Shulgin, he can tell you a couple stories.
At all.
I
don't remember any of your
I used to
drawings.
put draw cartoons and hang them on the walls throughout
You're
the building and
kidding
stuff.
me.
Yeah, so everybody can see them, and they'd all joke and laugh, and they knew who it was. And like Ray, one of the women that worked there, every time she went to the candy machines down by our shop there, every time she put money in, it would get stuck, and stop, right? You know how the candy machines work. I think she knew how to do that on purpose, because Ray would come over and I'll save you.
Oh, I see.
He'd come over and, Ray being that solid boy.
Ray had a rig.
He'd grab that machine and shake it, and drops that candy. She, "Oh, Raymond, thank you so much." Plus, so I do a cartoon of her standing there like this with little hearts above her head, and Ray shaking that machine, and stuff. But yeah, so there's a lot of cartoons. Maybe someday we'll do this again. I'll show you some of the cartoons if I can find them in my storage. But I was a cartoonist and the comedy team and everything of Zahn Enron, so it was fun. We had this crew that worked at the auto shop. Do you remember, was auto shop there when you were there?
Yeah. Motor pool.
Yeah, motor pool. Yeah.
Right.
There was a couple guys working there, and we had a problem with badgers.
Okay.
Up on the hill, right? And badgers are mean little critters.
They are.
And then we also had problems with coyotes eating, killing the deer and stuff that were on the mountain, and cattle. There was cattle. People would bring cattle up on that mountain. I don't know if you remember.
I remember it was cattle there now.
So there was badgers and well, they weren't so concerned about the badgers, but we had the trappers come in to try to stop this stuff from happening. They told us that if we're out there and we see an animal, any animal in their trap, stay away from it, call us, we will be there to get it out.
Sure.
So one Saturday morning, these guys from the auto shop had to work on a Saturday morning, just the morning part of it. And they had to go down to this lower area below the building where there was some parts and stuff down there to work on the trucks and stuff. So they go down there, and one of the traps, there was a raccoon stuck in the trap. So they knew they were not supposed to touch a trap and to call. But they go, oh, it's just a cute little raccoon.
Yeah.
Right? So one of the guys reached down there to try to get that trap open up. And when he did, the raccoon, being freaking out, turned around and bit him on the thumb.
Mm-hmm.
Tooth right into the thumbnail. And he's like, ah! And the other guy goes, oh, I'll save you. And we went to grab the raccoon's head to get him off of there. And the raccoon turned around and bit him in his thumb.
Is this a cartoon picture?
It eventually came to one. But this was reality. So now you got two guys, both being bitten on the thumb by raccoons.
Oh, my goodness.
So they had to call the people in, blah, blah, blah. So my cartoon is I had a little tree stump with 3 little baby raccoons around it and a mother standing there, mother raccoon, and a father raccoon come walking through the door. And the wife is saying, honey, what'd you bring home for dinner? And he's holding up 2 thumbs in his hand. So that was my cartoon.
This is good.
So that was my cartoon. And the 2 guys that were bit, one of them was the boss of Motor Pool, were so mad at me and just freaking out and everything. What do you think? Do you think I cared? No. I go, if you want, I'll make more copies because you guys were dumbass idiots. And I just caught the moment and made fun of it. So be happy.
You know what I love about it is a lot of us, including me, we kind of take work so darn seriously, that somebody like you comes along and it makes us feel very uncomfortable. But we're a good connection.
I'm sure at first it's uncomfortable, but once you get used to it, then you realize, like I said, Ray and I were just there for the entertainment. I swear to God, we worked our asses off. We trained a lot of people. We helped. I even had classes on how to work on the hydraulic system. I did all this stuff. But in the end, it was making fun and joking and laughing the entire time we worked that made my whole entire career at that company just a blast. I loved, some people hate waking up in the morning going to work. I couldn't wait to get to work. I loved it. It was a blast my entire career. I
love hearing that. Couldn't wait to get to work.
But you have to make it that way.
That's right.
And so part of my making it that way was just being stupid and silly and, having fun, making people smile and laugh, sometimes cry.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. No. I love you for it. I mean, we need more people like that, I think. I don't know. I'm very serious by nature and can get sucked down in that workaholic, just kind of keep
I actually don't know if I could survive in the world now because it is more serious and everything. Everything is really, I don't know. I don't know if there's a place for
of course there is
having fun. And
of course there is.
But then I never did work on a turbine ever again. February of 2009 was my last year of working on wind turbines, and I've never touched them since.
Yeah.
I, did my own thing, do heating air with my brother-in-law on the side, just as a side gig, but no, never went back. I did miss it though. I really, really wish, especially sometimes I see some of the new stuff coming up like, man, that'd be fun to work on this stuff.
When's the last time you were at this building?
My goodness. I don't even remember. It's been a long, long time.
Yeah.
It's been at least 15 years.
There's a lot going on there now.
Yeah. I see that. So it'd be fun to go up there. I might even know somebody there. I don't know. Do you know Tommy Gurley? Maybe not.
I do, but it's
because he works on some of those turbines.
Way
somewhere.
back in the brain there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the only one I know at the moment. I almost got a job with Terragen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Terragen. Because I did apply a couple places after I got laid off.
Yeah.
And but
just wasn't the right fit.
Nah, they didn't want the old dude. They wanted somebody to do some silly stuff and no.
Yeah. No, you were running a repair shop, but repair shops today, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the Doug and Ray show. It was the component repair shop. Component repair shops today are specialty. There's no one shop that does everything you guys did.
Yeah, we did everything because we were the only one at the time.
You had some electrical, and mechanical.
Everything.
Yeah. Well, there is no mix in this in North America that I know of. I'll easily see this continent that I know of. There's several specialties in electronics. So computer systems and boards and software and firmware, et cetera. And then you'll have gearbox only, rebuild. There's generator, rebuild. There's bearings, rebuild. And some of them are just large bearings. And then you have small bearings. Shit. Hoses. I mean,
Hydraulic hoses.
Yeah. They're all separate. They're all their own separate business, and they're all doing wonderful. They're all doing, great because there's just that kind of demand.
Right.
There is no one that I know of is doing just kind of like a whole wind turbine repair shop.
Well, I understand it now, but back then, because this was all new, there's nobody in the world that did it. Even back in Denmark and stuff, they did some repairs and stuff, but mostly they just, it's bad, we'll just build a new one, But there was no other option except for us to start doing this. And we had to reverse engineering a lot when we repaired stuff because it was, like I said, there was no manual on repairs.
Yep.
The stuff was given to us, so we'd tear it apart and see how it was built, and then we'd, order bearings and order parts, whatever we can get here, and we'd put it all back together again and figure out why this failed and, change different seals on it, change the components, change this and that. So hydraulic lines, electrical, the controllers, everything. It didn't matter. Wind vanes, anemometers, everything came into our shop, and there was just 4 of us. And we did all that work. The 4s were constantly, and we did not just work on one thing where we're trained in this. No, we would all go around and all do the same thing. So if one of us was gone one day, that another person come in, fill in that spot, So, but we had to do it. And so I had a CAD system, and I made our own service manuals, repair manuals. I have manuals on how to repair all these parts, take them apart, put them back together, all this stuff. There was nobody else in the entire wind industry that was doing it. So it was just us.
Yeah. No, and no one that I know of anywhere. Yeah. This has been a freaking blast. All right. We are going, are you giving these?
Yes. That's for
you
you.
So much for these pictures, and we're going to take good care of them, and we're going to make sure that they get seen by more people. I want to plan a drive, and I think we should all 3 go, to be honest.
Just let me know.
And really talk about like drive, and if you're okay, I might want to record the conversation so we can, we've talked about like, how do you tell the history of the area, to others, because I didn't know how special it was to people that had never been here. And then they go for it, but they've been in wind like their whole life and never saw Tehachapi, and they go for the drive and they're just amazed.
One of the things you got to think about.
How do we share that history story?
You got to realize too, a lot of like Texas and all these places that have wind turbines are usually on flat lands out in the middle of nowhere. It's just the turbines all over the place, flat, until they get up here and see these mountains, and they go up through the canyons and go up these mountains, and it's cool to be on there and see all these wind turbines all over the place. It's cool. If I had a picture of the wind wall.
Yes.
You remember the wind wall? That was a cool concept, a cool thing at the time. And of course, now it's all gone. But the wind wall was a new idea at the time. It was really cool. We have these little 40-foot, 60-foot, 80-foot, a buck 40-foot turbines on this mountainside just to get as much wind as we can,
Yes.
And so if you see the history of that and how all that worked, and even though it's gone now, it's still cool.
It is so cool. And if you have other pictures, we'd love to care for them.
Yeah, I'll try to find them.
And, we had breakfast at Kelsey's Cafe in town, and we saw on their wall some old pictures.
Oh, really?
Some
Kelsey's?
80s and 90s pictures. Yeah, and we kind of got carried away with work conversation, but we should maybe plan a little breakfast or lunch in there and stare at their pictures. Lots of pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing cool about Kelsey's, because it's been in Tehachapi forever. So
yeah,
and I'm glad when new owners came and bought it from
kept it the same.
Yeah, kept it. I love it, because it was part of history. Same with Burger Spot. Burger Spot and Kelsey's are like the old 50s kind of look.
Yes,
whatever, it's just cool stuff. There's another picture I want you to see if I can find it. It's a smaller one, but SC&E. Back when we were doing our Mesa site, which is down there by Whitewater, down by Palm Springs.
White Mesa?
The site was just called Mesa.
It was just called Mesa. Okay.
But Whitewater was a canyon down below, and then on the other side of that, we had another site. But when we first started going down there was a wind turbine down there. It was like a tripod. It was like a
3 legs.
yeah, 3 legs, but 2 in the front and then 1 coming down the back. So it wasn't like a perfect triangle. It was like a
Oh, it had some angle to it then. Okay.
and that thing was huge, and the whole bottom of it was a giant gear. So this big, huge thing would rotate.
The yaw gears at the bottom, at the base?
Yes, it was. But the other weird part was here, this big, huge turbine was on the top of it with these big wood with paper, like airplane wing type blades on it. And it actually ran a hydraulic pump up top. That's what it turned. And there was hydraulic cables that came down to the base of the turbine.
Okay.
And into a gearbox. So the hydraulic would run from one gearbox to another. And then that gearbox would reduce itself and spin a generator.
That's horrible.
It was absolutely horrible. It was a huge, ugly monstrosity.
I love it. I want to see a picture of this.
But
that's horrible.
I have a picture of it. And when they tore it down, they eventually tore it down. And Jim Dielson, who the owner's on, that was part of history of California, because that was the first time they ever tried some type of wind stuff, was that turbine. So when we tore it all down, we took chainsaws and cut out a big section of one of the blades, and he took it home. I don't know whatever happened to it, but I remember them cutting the legs out and just letting it nosedive.
Yeah.
But yes, it was the weirdest setup, the weirdest thing in the world. And they used to have these big lights at nighttime. So I lived in Desert Hot Springs at the time, which is across from Palm Springs when we were putting the site up. And I remember looking over there, and they had these lights proudly shining on this ugly ass thing that didn't work.
It was their masterpiece. They were showing it off.
Yeah. It was ugly. But I have a picture of it somewhere, and I got to bring that one to YouTube because
the energy transfer loss calculation just is stupid in my head.
Yeah, I can't guarantee, but maybe I'm thinking that might be the very first wind turbine ever in the United States. I could be wrong. I would have to look into the history of it, but it was old and ugly at the time, and since we were putting up all these nice little Vestas wind turbines, like, we can't compete with that. Cut it off its knees and let it go.
I used to compile a lot of history on wind like 10, 20 years. I think I have them on an old hard drive in my attic. I might crawl up there because that one's sort of ringing a bell. I might have not a picture, but a drawing of it.
Could be. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. This is a hoot. You're definitely coming back to keep telling the stories. I hope.
I do have many more, but
I hope. Yeah. No, I mean, we keep talking, but we're going to be slurring our words in a minute.
Nah.
Not you?
It's only 2 beers, not even 2 beers in.
You're another thing you're still better at me at. I love it. But we're going to take good care of the pictures. We got to plan that drive. This would be a freaking hoot.
And so we're going to do a little video drive thing?
Maybe. I don't know if we
I
come
think
up
we
with some
should.
ideas to kind of record the audio. And Jacob is great with video. And, he's got a few different cameras and things. And then I'm going to stay tuned. I was asking around in Bear Valley where Willie's at, Willem Taka, Willie, because I haven't seen him in a while. Usually when he disappears, he's off in Germany visiting the family for a while. So when he comes back, oh man, he shows up to the saloon like several nights a week. He lives across the street. He bought a house across the street in, I think, 84.
Wow.
In Bear Valley and never left. His father sent him over here to build the site. So they did some here. He did some in Canada, another place in the U.S.
Wow.
So you guys might have some cool stories to, banter back and forth.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, he's usually in there drinking wine and having dinner at the bar. And it's kind of a hoot to talk to. And holy smokes. All right. I don't know how long we went. This was the longest podcast ever.
What?
But and it's funny, we could keep talking. I know I'm kind of like wrapping it up for us.
Well, we do keep going back. I keep going back and forth from old days, new days, old days, but yeah.
Yeah. I want to wrap it up, and then let's just schedule you to come back.
All right.
Yeah, and keep telling the stories.
Yep.
Thank you. Cheers.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Heineken to our Vestas friends.
Vestas friends.
Danes and
I love it.
yes.
Thank you for
else.
coming, Doug.